Hey there friends, how's it going? I'm Ben Snow, and today I'm gonna give you 10 advanced tips and tricks for dueling in Harry Potter Magic Awakened. When you go out exploring in the Forbidden Forest or get a bunch of loot from Fort Anglia, you get easily overflown with all sorts of echoes, and it just looks too much. You get piles and piles of them. Of course, you can try to upgrade them all, but if you want to get rid of all those unused echoes, you can use them as currency. Whenever you need to upgrade an echo, go to the bottom screen and uncheck this little mark and check this one instead. This will ultimately be using echoes to upgrade your current one, and you have control over which specific ones to use so you don't accidentally lose the upgraded ones. The echoes are definitely less effective than coins or jewels, so you have to spend a bunch of them at once. But this definitely helps out with your hoarding situation. Fiendfyre is a powerful legendary card that spawns a fire snake, or a beast, that grows in size with the defeat of a unit. That includes both your opponent's and your own summons too. So you gotta utilize this feature to the maximum by sacrificing your own summons. Have spiders or Cornish pixies ready to use after or right before you spawn your snake. The more summons the better, and the faster they die the better too, so avoid big guys like Troll or Centaur. Also have a bomb box already cast by the time Fiendfyre comes into the field. Then as an additional help, it's good to throw a swelling solution on the snake/dragon. That will increase its movement and attack speed. Some good echoes to use with this card/deck are Newt's and Hagrid's echoes. Hagrid will make your fire beast even faster and will be healing it multiple times. Newt, on the other hand, won't do anything to the snake itself, but will help you a lot with those summons. When I first got this card, I thought it was kinda useless. When summoned, Nebulus covers a target area with a thick blanket of fog. While it's nice that it heals all ally units and makes them invisible, I couldn't find a good use for that invisibility considering that the invisibility gets broken once the enemy enters the fog. And yes, the enemy player still knows where you are. What I didn't realize is that the summons don't. And that's where you can start being creative. You can use Nebulus to slow down or stop enemy summons completely, which buys you time to gain MP and re-strategize. Another way is to use Nebulus to counter thunderstorms. When inside the fog, you completely avoid the lightning strikes from both Thunderstorm and Atmospheric Charm. They will either switch to another target or simply hit nothing. And also you can use Nebulus for targeting. This one is a bit more advanced and will take practice to master, but you can use Nebulus to hide enemy troops to make your summons prioritize what's visible. As an example, here's how my friend Roxy cast Piertotum Locomotor and made the statues head for the target in the rear by engulfing the front units in fog. You gotta watch how exactly you place those units though. With the statues, it's better to line them along the border, but you gotta also watch out for your statues walking inside the fog, which will of course break the spell. The next set of tips is more on the simple side, but many overlook this, mostly because this game is very good at throwing you all types of ads, offers, and things to do that can make you easily get overwhelmed. But it's always good to take it slow and go step by step. If you're struggling during some Forbidden Forest missions or simply stuck at dueling, it could mean that you need some upgrades. So the best thing to do is focus on the story missions first. They will progress you through the campaign and will reward you with a bunch of keys and gold that you're going to be able to use for upgrading your spellbook with new and stronger cards. With that, always check in every single reward menu that is available in the game. Spaces, daily, seasonal, and weekly missions, Forbidden Forest, check Fort Anglia, all of that gives you a lot of stuff. Also make sure to refresh the daily draw thingy that can be done 3 times a day and use your green jewels. I'm sure you have a couple of thousands of those there. Upgrading even the simplest spell 1 level up can make a huge difference on the battlefield. If you're struggling in history or Muggle studies classes and you're trying to get perfect, just sign up your NPC companions to do the class with you and wait a little bit before answering. The NPCs will eventually answer themselves, revealing their own answers, which will then be marked as correct or incorrect. It does feel like cheating, but hey, if you gotta get that perfect, you gotta get that perfect. The Obscurus card was recently added to the game and it's turning the attention of a lot of players. It takes only 5 MP to cast and deals consistent damage, but many fall into a trap of its double-edged sword. Once used, the player becomes vulnerable to extra damage. So here are a few tips and tactics to keep in mind while using this card. Never use Obscurus during a thunderstorm unless you plan to get inside Nebulus afterwards, because those lightnings will kill you super fast. Use Obscurus to evade Ron's charging attack or Ridgeback's spitting fire, well, basically any charging attack. As one of the ways you can cover up for the increased damage taken, you can use Eidolon Apparition right before Obscurus, ideally inside Nebulus. Simply double tap on Eidolon Apparition, then cast Obscurus. Once you're back to human form, select a place to apparate to. This will then activate the healing bonus of the card. That's why it's better to apparate inside Nebulus, because it will help you with healing too, plus cover you from the enemy summons. In case you want to build an Obscurus-centric deck, a good Echo to use with this deck would be Fred and George, because the twins will help you out with dealing some extra damage. Otherwise, you can use almost any Echo with it. For more offensive use of Obscurus, Bellatrix is a good Echo choice, and for defensive, that would be Hermione. Hermione is a good option for a companion too, who will also turn into Obscurus, dealing 800 damage combined, and 1200 if you pair it with the Howler card. That's actually a great way to start the battle, and you can also use Priori Incantatem to cast it fast again, but you'll have to wait for Hermione's 10-second cool-off period. And lastly, Obscurus's target area is bigger than Nebulus's, so in case the enemies hide inside Nebulus, cast Thunderstorm or Atmospheric Charm before casting Obscurus. This will make them get out of the fog and be taking extra damage from the lightning and your Obscurus. Piertotum Locomotor is a powerful legendary card that summons 2 giant statues, just like Professor McGonagall did during the Battle of Hogwarts. The statues look very intimidating on the battlefield and has a wide appeal with many players, but it can easily turn into a waste of MP if not used properly. First and foremost, take advantage of the taunting time. When summoned, the statues instantly taunt the enemies, which reduces the damage taken by 99% and lasts for 4 seconds. So take advantage of this feature by placing your statues as close to the enemies as possible. It will force them to either waste magic points on the statues or cause them to flee. That's when you can set a trap with Incendio or other AoE card. But you always have to remember to defend your statues, especially against the flying summons. The statues can't attack them, and that makes cards like Antipodian Opali and Cornish Pixies their arch nemesises. So focus your attacks on those as soon as possible. Besides that, on their own, the statues don't really pose much of a threat. That's why you gotta pair them with cards like Bombastic Boombox and Swell in Solution, which will make them both faster and attackier. Pairing with Hagrid's Echo will make them even faster, plus they will heal every time their health bar drops lower than 50%. It will happen twice and will give plenty of time to do some massive damage. You can also use Newt's Echo for the statues too. It won't give any benefits to the statues, but will help you fill the battle arena with a ton of summons, which will end up overwhelming the opponent. Also, never use Piertotum Locomotor if there's wrong in the field, unless you're willing to sacrifice your magic points. And if you're trying to defend yourself against these statues instead of mastering them, I have a dedicated video for that, which I'll make sure to link at the end of the video. Being successful in duels and in the Forbidden Forest explorations is all about combining powerful cards and utilizing them to the fullest in battles. And while it's rather difficult to choose just one powerful deck, it's better to have a couple of options curated for its purpose. Single duels, duo duels, and forest missions. That's why you have a few slots to pre-build your decks. But the common formula I like to use when building a deck is this. Choose a powerful card you want to use as your ace and then work your way down, choosing cards with low MP that will support that ace card. Because each card on their own isn't much of a threat, you always have to consider what combos you're going to be using in the battle. A good rule of thumb is to have about 3 defensive cards, 2 offensive, 2 controlling ones, and 1 mega offensive. And by having a lot of low MP cost cards, you're going to be able to cycle through them very quickly. If you're working in a team, then perhaps you can coordinate each deck. Say you'll have more summon-based deck, and your friend's deck will have more focus on the offensive cards and healing you and your summons. So pick a high MP legendary card like Piertotum Locomotor, Orb of Water, or Whizbangs, study it. Find its strengths and weaknesses, and then try to cover for those weaknesses and highlight strengths by pairing with appropriate echoes. When it comes to Forbidden Forest missions, I would advise to prioritize flying summons. For controlling card, Orb of Water is really good, and also Confringo is amazing to deal with lots of enemies at once. When it comes to dealing with bosses, it's kind of tough to just give one specific deck because each boss is different, but you can never go wrong with Bellatrix's deck since the Death Eaters melt down bosses so fast. Orb of Water is a powerful control card that also deals a lot of damage, but the best way to utilize it is by allowing your opponents spend their MP on the summons, then choose the right moment to cast Orb of Water and engulf both the opponents and their summons. In case the opponent is surviving, bring them closer to you so you can be dealing some basic damage to them too. Never underestimate the power of your basic attacks. If instead you're trying to avoid being engulfed in the Orb of Water, try staying as far from the other opponent as possible. That way they'll have to choose who to catch first, and you have more chances of escaping and or breaking the spell by attacking the caster. If you get engulfed in the Orb of Water, you can still use some cards like Incendio, Expulso, Expelliarmus, or Confringo on the caster that will break their spell. Alternatively, you can also cast Crucio, which won't break the Orb of Water, but will deal a lot of damage to the caster. And lastly, I'm gonna share a secret move that causes panic every time I use it. This is some very advanced tech and will require practice, so listen up. Go to the back of the arena and stand in the death corner. Then place statues like so and cast the port key immediately after so the boot lands right between you three. This will instantly spawn the statues and teleport you and both of them, giving all of you a shield. Almost every time the statues then appear right in front of the enemy's face and they run like hell every time. Then you throw a swelling solution on the statues and the bomb boxes that you've set up prior to this move give them extra juice. And naturally, you also have Hagrid as an Echo, which then heals them as well and makes them even more faster. This surprise attack can even end up entirely baiting a spell from your opponent there in a corner, making them low on MP to fight back. It works like clockwork every single time, but sometimes it takes time to get your stars aligned to do this move, which makes you just stand there and wait. So it's better to use this move in duo duels. That way you'll have your back covered when waiting for those cards. But if you're interested in more helpful tips about different cards in Magic Awakened, check out the videos seen on your screen, and here's the one I mentioned about beating Piertotum Locomotor. But guys, thank you so much for making it all the way back to the end of the video. Don't forget about the liking and subscribing buttons and all the other buttons on that nature. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.